Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to what is actually the last of our JA Company Program Speaker Series for the year. Been a quick few months. We started this journey together back in November, kind of the launch of our opportunity to help you expand your network and bring in some of our great partners to share their stories. And here we are, and now it is March 8th, and our program is coming to an end. But what we're going to talk about today is, in many ways, hopefully this is just the beginning of a journey that you have as individuals, and then hopefully your connection with junior achievement. I will do a couple of quick housekeeping items. First of all, as a reminder, we will have an opportunity to ask questions of our guests at the end. Go ahead and just hit your raise your hand and turn your microphone and video on to ask your questions. Please share this with the other students in the program, those in both your group, and then you can also refer anyone to our YouTube channel to share this with any of students in your network or with our coordinators, any of your associates as well. I'll give a little bit of a sneak peek. I think Stuart and I have agreed that we want to continue this into next year. So you can look forward to the launch of JA Company Program Speaker Series 2.0 coming next fall. But my guess is that we will probably also have some opportunities over the summer where we would have some one-off events that we would share with not just students who are currently in the program, but potentially students who are in our broader networks as well. So with that, let's get to what everyone is here for tonight, and that is our wonderful guest who's going to really bring, I think, a little bit of a different perspective. I mean, we're going to talk to someone who's an entrepreneur and actually has started their own business, but really is in the business of helping others chart their path and find maybe some insights into their own both personal and professional lives and how they move that ball forward. So without further ado, Parul, welcome and thank you for coming this evening.
I'm excited to be here, Paul. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for honestly the opportunity to share some of my experience and perspective. It's always great when people want to know my thoughts because I like to talk. So it's a win-win. I'll start by, instead of giving you like the traditional overview of where I went to school and all of that, I'm just going to start with just a perspective that I have, which has it drives me every day with the work that I do. That it's the idea that successful leaders aren't successful by chance. It isn't something that they just took the path of least resistance and they got there. What it is it's extremely hard work. They work really hard to be where they are. And knowing who they are and where they're going, it's critical. And that's where my job comes in. My job is to help make sure that they have defined those areas of what they want and who they are as clearly as possible. So what I would kind of think of me as is Windex. I'm Windex for leaders. I help them see clearly. I'm married and I have two amazingly exhausting kids. We live in Chester Springs. Let's see, I have my undergraduate from James Madison University and my master's from NC State. I've worked for large corporate global brands like Subway and McDonald's. Amazing opportunities, and I would tell you that has shaped so much of where I am today, are all those exposure points and learnings that you get in such an environment. But that experience led me to the fact that there are specific things about that job that I loved, and I decided I wanted to do that every day. So I started my own business. I do a lot of work here locally with the Chester County Fund for Women and Girls. And it's something that I'm passionate about, being able to help young leaders become the best version of themselves in different capacities and different socioeconomic situations. And with that, that's my story.
So I love that analogy about Windex. Somehow I'm going to use that again in the future. But, first of all, you have to know you need the Windex, right? And how, in your experience, how does someone kind of make that decision that they want to seek you out to be that Windex for them?
So it's like most entrepreneurs, you can go out there and market yourself. But for me, it's word of mouth. It's other leaders that have had a chance to work with me and have been able to experience what the value looks like of having a coach that walks beside them. So every client I have today has been a referral from another client. And those individuals recognize the fact that it's okay to want to be better. It's okay to want to learn and grow. Those are honestly the type of people I want to work with, because they are not willing to stand on a pedestal and say, I know everything. Everybody has opportunity to learn new things and sharpen their saw and all those cliches. But people who are willing to say, you know what, I really need some help, or I'm stuck, or I want to be better, I want to get to the next level and I can't seem to figure out what I'm missing. Maybe somebody can help me see what I don't see. That's when they decided that having an executive coach might be a great path for them.
So I imagine that requires a significant amount of trust between you and that particular individual. How do you instill that trust?
That's a great question/comment. You're right. Trust is probably foundational for any of the relationships I have with the clients that I work with. And it comes from a place of, I'm here for you. I'm not here to sell you anything. I don't need you to do what I say. I'm not here to be your guide. What I'm here to do is to walk beside you and help you figure out what your truth is. And when you have someone that is truly dedicated to making you the best version of yourself, eventually they'll see the fact that I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. And it creates a sense of credibility that I have found has served me well in creating those relationships that to this date, I haven't had a single client that I no longer work with. I work with every single one and I maintain them.
It sounds, a lot like, so many experiences, that you kind of get out of it what you put into it, which is, really a truism for a lot of relationships, right? Including a work relationship, your time at Subway to now being an entrepreneur with your own business. Are there any other attributes that you think have been key in driving towards this success that you've now, feels like you've achieved?
Yeah, I would say that I'm an exceptionally inquisitive person. Ever since I was little, I wanted to ask why. So I'm sure my mom has a different explanation of what that was like for her. But I want to understand. I seek to understand what's happening and why it's happening and what is my role in all of that, or how can I help? I'm motivated by helping good people. I feel like the work I do is a form of service. I serve leaders. And it's a great feeling to know that I'm not doing this because I have to. I do it because I want to. I want to help you and I want you to be better. And I would say the last thing is intuitive. Honestly, I didn't really realize it till I was in my corporate roles, but I can read people. And it isn't like some sort of tea leaves or crystal ball. I mean, I'm listening to what they're telling me and what they're not telling me. And sometimes that's actually where you create honest dialogue, because you can ask a question that that person's going to hear because you were listening.
I think that's been a common theme that we've heard through some of these conversations. First of all, inquisitive, learning, constantly learning. I think that's something that we have heard from so many of our speakers, that being successful is a willingness to admit you don't know everything all the time. And we heard a couple of examples of partners who were able to advance their career because they realized there was something they did not know. And so they took it upon themselves to go find that out. And then I think the other thing I heard you say is listening. And, boy, sometimes I worry that's becoming a lost art, and just showing that you're paying attention, in so many circumstances can really help you as an individual, our students, us in our careers, just listening and giving that other person a chance to share their point of view is can be so important, particularly in the relationships that you need to build to be successful in any entity. So let's pivot a little bit and let's talk for a few minutes. Our students have been on this hopefully really great experience. And part of that at the end is an opportunity for them to start thinking about what's next and building that personal action plan. And I would imagine with your clients, you have similar conversations on, all this is great to talk about, but what are we going to do with it? So what insight might you have with our students about what that may look like for them?
I would start by saying you have learned so much. Paul has shared with me, as has Stuart, some of the facets you guys have gone through on your journey. This is really the beginning for you. It isn't by any means, like you said, Paul, the end. And when you think about all the things that you learned, what stood out for you, what mattered to you, and deciding what does that mean for you, how can you use that to do something better, to be better in the future? As you set those goals for yourself or the organization that you guys created, really take the time to reflect and think about why. Why is something important to you? Why do you want to achieve X, Y, Z? And give it the credence it deserves versus just a check in the box, like, oh, this is the goal. Really ask yourself why, and spend some time trying to think about, how will I know I got there? How will I know that I was successful at creating a plan, taking steps, and looking back and saying, I did a great job? How will you know you did that? Is it because the time frame is finished, or because you can turn around and see all these amazing milestones that you passed along the way?
Now, one of the things we all know about planning, or at least hope, is, the plan only gets you so far, and sometimes that plan doesn't go as you thought it would. Talk a little bit about maybe your experience in a time that you had to pivot, from your plan, and what you learned that might help students in our program when they come to that point in their career or their experience where they need to pivot.
So if it's okay, I'm going to share two stories.
Sure.
One I'm going to share was one of those moments that you have that you'll never forget. And to me, that is like transformative, because when I think about that experience, my heart still races. So growing up as a traditional Asian family, my parents came from overseas. There was a lot of expectations around how things are done. And so I took all of those learnings with me to work. This is how you're supposed to be, because that's what I knew at home. So this sense of, let me ask for permission, let me ask and justify all the actions I'm going to take so that everybody's happy, that my leadership or the people that I look up to, there's a level of obedience that comes with that. All of these things probably sound possibly a little foreign, but some of you might be able to relate to those cultural norms. So I did that a lot in my work, Subway. But then when I got to McDonald's, I had this senior executive, and her name was Debbie. And Debbie was a tough cookie. She was just really hard to work with, not because she wasn't good, because she had high expectations. And either you rose to them or you didn't. And in that journey with her, one day I was in the car and I was explaining to her why I wanted to go to a meeting with her, and the value and the, almost like, here are all the facts that I need to share. And she didn't say a word. So I wasn't sure what to do. I was like, do I ask her or do I just let it go? And I was like, I'm going to ask her. Did you hear what I said, Debbie? I kind of shared some thoughts. I would love your perspective. And in that moment, she said to me, you need to stop asking other people to help you get what you want. You want something, you go get it. So if you feel like you deserve to have a seat at the table, as all of us at some point in our career do, she's like, grab a chair and sit down. And if somebody there wants to ask a question about why you're sitting there, in that moment, share your justification. Otherwise, just do it. You will go further in life because you have a lot to offer us, but you got to stop asking. If you ask, it shows lack of confidence. And I know somewhere deep inside, you understand what you need to do. So I will no longer answer your question. You do what you need to do. And if there's something I can do to help you along the way, let me know. And it was one of those things where you're like, I don't know, should I cry or be moved? But it was one of those moments that changed my life. And after that, I realized that there were so many things that I was allowing other people to decide for me. So that one was a big one. So I thought I'd share. The other piece is realizing what is important to you. So I was working this great job. I loved my job, but I was working from 8:30 to 6 and then 10 to 2 in the morning every single night just to stay afloat. And, you would think instead of selling burgers and fries, I was, a heart surgeon or something, but I wasn't. Nobody's going to die. But it became so important that everything else wasn't as important. And that's not the case. So when it takes, either situations that come up or a moment, take a step back, really think about, is this what I want? Is this who I want to be? And when I did that, I actually recognized the fact that I loved what I did, but I love my family more. And I was missing a lot of time with them. So it created a chance for me to do something different. And I decided to go do what I love the most and be present for my family.
On one hand seems very, disconnected, and yet there's that common theme, right? You need to know what you want, and you need to have confidence in your ability. And that's what I heard from your first story, is that, you had a mentor who said, you need that confidence. You'll know, someone will tell you if you're wrong, but right. I mean, and you need that confidence to kind of chart that path. And that is so hard to do. And in your experience where you described, that might be a cultural norm. It can be a family norm. It can be an experience norm, right? You just, it's kind of, the best way to learn about work is to go to work. There are just things you don't know until you get there. And when you combine that with a set of experiences that all of us bring into the door that first day we're there, that can be very hard to overcome. And I think that's great that you had someone that said, kind of gave you that little shove and said, it's okay, go do it. I know you can. What a good story to share. Thank you. And then, of course, and we've talked about this a lot with all of our speakers, is, find that passion, right? And hopefully all of us have that opportunity to take what we're passionate about and link that with what we're good at, and where those 2 points come together right there, that's what we should all be doing. And it sounds to me like that's where you are. What have you learned? Like, what do you wish someone told you in high school, that, may have put you on a different path or may have helped you to get to this point quicker?
It's kind of a subset of what you said. I wish when I was in high school that someone sat me down and said, do you know that you are unique and that you have talents that other people don't? You need to figure out what those talents are, what makes you happy, because the things that come easiest to us, the things that are innate, tend to be the things we gravitate towards. If I would have spent time figuring out the things that made me truly happy, that came naturally for me, my passion, as you mentioned, I would have probably had less of the curve that you have to follow to find where you end up today. Not because they weren't amazing steps to take, I would have just gotten here faster. And so I think that if that's a piece of perspective I can share with the students, I would say you are unique, and there's so many things that make you special. The hope is that you'll take some time through this experience with Junior Achievement, and hopefully after listening to our conversation today, and just spend time recognizing what makes you so special. What do you love about whatever it is that gives you joy and energy? Is it athletically based? Is it scientifically based? Whatever it may be, but it might help you figure out what your next step should look like. Because again, anything we all do isn't to figure out what's the solution, it's to figure out how to walk in that direction. As long as we're walking in a direction towards a solution, you're making progress. And that's all you can ask for sometimes. So that would be what I would offer. Would have been great if somebody took the time to share that with me.
So to that point, and I would imagine you have similar conversations with some of your clients as we move forward, part of what I think a strength of this program has been is the ability to build your network. And, as we begin to, move into the question and answer with our students, we do ask if you are on LinkedIn, I guarantee you're going to have students who connect with you. But are there other ways that in your experience, particularly, things are looking good and hopefully are economy and in our jobs and so on, but we still have a little time to go. So we're not all jumping back in the pool, the networking pool, the way we may have in previous times. So are there suggestions you would have for students to build that network, to find that passion, to chart that path forward in what is still a little bit of a unique circumstance?
Absolutely. I had the chance to listen to some of the other partners that shared perspective. And so I don't want to be repetitive in any way, because there's only, a way of looking at it, so many different packages and puzzle pieces. But this is what I would say. Going back to the comment I said that I wish someone sat me down and said, what makes you unique? What do you love? What comes easy to you? And why is that important for you? I would say make sure you know what that is before you go and have these conversations with other people, because you being able to tell your story is so important. And if you haven't taken the time to figure out what is it about your story that you want to share, you might miss really great opportunities to create connections with people, because those are those experiences that do create those connections. Like, they can relate to what you're saying, or they have a family member who's in the same place you are. Figure out what it is that you have that you bring to the table, and make sure that you find a way to tell that story as confidently and succinctly as possible. The other thing I would offer as a suggestion is set a goal. So if your goal is, I'm going to meet 10 people at this XYZ networking event, or, even if it's virtual, I'm going to find a way to meet 10 new people. That's reasonable, and it's something that you can achieve. But if you walk into this saying, I'm going to meet 10 people and I'm going to schedule 10 appointments before I leave today, you're going to walk into this meeting and you're going to end up not listening, because all you want to do is make sure that you could walk out of there achieving something that honestly wasn't even realistic. So be realistic for yourself. Set goals that you can achieve, but make sure you know what you want out of that conversation.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that's good advice. So I'm going to ask if our students, if now's the time we can open it up. We have a few minutes for questions. I think everybody knows the drill at this point. Go ahead and raise your hand, and I can call on you as appropriate. And Parul, I will, we're almost neighbors. I live in Eagleview, so just right down the road from Chester Springs. So, okay. Looks like we have Arhan. Go ahead and unmute and perfect.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for coming today. Just wondering, like, you mentioned how, like, when you heard those people, when you heard your boss tell you like, go right ahead and just do it, that you made that change. How do you, like, can you, like, explain to me, like, how I can make a change just by, like, self-motivation, or like somebody telling me to? Because, like, a lot of times somebody will tell me to do something, like change something, make me better, but, like, it'll just go right in one ear and out the other because I'm too lazy to work on that. Can you, like, help me out with that?
Absolutely. And thank you for being so honest, because I think that that's part of growth, right? Is the willingness to just kind of put it out there. Here's what I would tell you. Sometimes people give you advice, and maybe it's good advice, but they're not telling it to you in a way that you can hear. So sometimes if you can do yourself a favor and step back and say, why are they telling me this? Now, if it's mom saying, clean up my room, like, okay, that's just a mom thing. But if somebody's giving you a perspective that you think there might be some truth to, what I would recommend is that you really ask yourself, why are they telling me this? Like, what am I doing or not doing that makes them feel like that's something that they want to give me advice on? And if it's something that you can say, yeah, that is something I should work on, then the next step becomes, okay, I don't really want to hear that too many more times in my life. How do I go about changing that? And although it sounds kind of easy, it's really not. It's recognizing that it's something you want to change, and then figuring out how to go and make it happen. Because if it's important to you, you will change it.
All right. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense now. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thank
you. Oftentimes I go through the exercise of thinking, what is the worst result if I fail, right? When you think, and when you start to go through that, you realize the failure that you're so afraid of really is not that big of a deal. I might be embarrassed. Someone might have to correct me. Am I going to still keep my job? Yes, I am. Okay. Beyond that, take that risk. Again, that's been a common theme that we've heard is, appropriate risk taking. But, that's the hard part, right? Because, you say to yourself internally, well, if I was confident, I wouldn't be asking this question, so, taking that first step and understanding, well, the risk of failure probably is not as bad as I've made it in my mind can be that first step. And I would imagine that you see that, it's not just our students, you probably see that from some pretty seasoned professionals.
Absolutely. And actually, there was another piece that you kind of inspired in what you were sharing. Arhan, I would add this other piece. As you think about what it is that this person is telling you and why they're telling you, ask yourself what happens if you don't change it. Because I think that sometimes that might be the catalyst that you might be missing. What happens if I don't change this about myself? Maybe the answer is nothing happens. Move on. But maybe it's something you're like, wow, I may not get to my goal or the future that I want. Maybe I need to fix it. Maybe that's a good way to ask the question in an inverted way.
All right. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense as well. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So I think we have time for one more good question. Anybody else want to ask? No? Samyan? Go ahead and, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of similar to something you mentioned earlier, I think, but what's like something that you wish you did when you were younger?
Something I wish I did. That's a great question. I wish I spent less time worrying about making everybody else happy instead of figuring out what it is that makes me happy. So I don't know if that at all relates to being a coach, but it's just an honest answer. You know, the way you grow up and all the things you go through, you want to please your bosses and your colleagues and your family, and it's all important. But if you're not pleasing yourself, if you're not doing what you love or what makes you happy, or in a way that makes you happy, it can become a regret. So it's not that I regret, like it was horrible, but if there is something out of what I'm sharing that could be helpful, I would say make sure that in that quest for finding people, creating happiness for others, don't forget yourself.
No, I think there is a coaching moment in there, right? There's all those studies that talk about if you're happy, you're a better employee, you're a better family member, you're a better friend, you're a better spouse, you live longer, so the things that you're striving for, and really, I think it sums up everything you've said tonight. It starts with you. If you take care of yourself and take care of your needs, oftentimes what you'll find is that will empower you to do those things that are important for you in your job, with your friends, with your family. But it starts with you. And that first step is finding a coach like you that can help a person on their journey. So we've got one more. We got 2 minutes. Any other questions from our group? And we'll wait a minute to see if another hand goes up. But Parul, what's next for you, right? I mean, is this are you there? Do you have plans? Do you want to expand your client base? Do you want to bring on other partners? Is there a book in your future that we can recommend to our group here?
That's also a great question. I'm in the place where I'm finally not worried about what it takes to start a business and actually doing the business, that I want to experience this for a while. Mm-hmm. So learning how to continue to build my client base, to make sure that I'm making time to educate myself and be relevant to what's going on in the environment that I'm in, or we're all in. COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of people. I would say that I'm good in the sense that I want to enjoy this moment. Mm-hmm. And in the future, I see myself being able to maybe work with maybe global organizations. I work with a few, but maybe that would be something, because I have that experience. There's a passion there for me to be able to, find opportunities to help more leaders, because every leader I can help, that's not the one person I'm helping. It's all the people that work with them and work for them that you get to make a positive ripple effect for. So I would say that being able to create as many positive ripples as possible is my goal. But for now, I'm really enjoying the experience of not worrying about whether or not my website's up. It's more about being able to enjoy the work that I'm doing.
Well, thank you. I don't think I could have asked for a better closing there, because that's what this is all about, right? And the work that the JA volunteers do in this program, the time that you spent tonight, it's all about creating those ripples. And hopefully we can give those little nuggets out to the students in our programs. They take those out, it makes a better future for them. And hopefully when they have that better future, they make a better future for those that they interact with as well. So well said. And thank you very much for spending this 30 minutes with us. We'd love to, I'll do my first pitch of, we'd love to have you back next year. And in the meantime, if there's anything we can do for you, let us know. Students who are here, thanks for sticking with us. I know we've had a few folks, I think, that have been on every call, and I do appreciate that. This will become part of our learning library moving forward, that we will have in a variety of ways for students to interact with these videos. But thank you all. Good luck with the end of your program. I'll see hopefully a lot of you at our virtual competition coming up in April. And in the meantime, Parul, thank you once again, and everyone else, have a great night and enjoy the rest of your year. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.